let me just ask you, what are three moves they can make to pay it off?
To make the PMP pay off? Yeah. So for some people, right, for a segment of the PMP population, the PMP is it. Like they're happy. It's good stuff. And you know what? Good for you. That's awesome. The PMP is absolutely, it's like a junior MBA. You know what I mean? And if you're in a technical organization or a smaller organization where you're like, this is all I ever wanted. Like, I'm really happy doing this work. Listen, project management is extremely rewarding work because not only do you get to like actually make things, build things, drag things over the finish line, but you get to do it with a team of people. And so achieving your PMP is a great accomplishment. And for a lot of people, that's what they want and that's where they want to be. Good for them. There is a segment of that population, though, that pursued their PMP with the understanding that it was going to lead to bigger and better things, which can be absolutely true. Three things that really matter after the PMP. So this is where the PMP either becomes a trap or it becomes an accelerator. And if it becomes a trap when I got my PMP, I'm good, I take my foot off the gas, I'm very happy doing my job, and here's where I want to be. Absolutely. There you go. You can spend the rest of your career executing projects, being absolutely amazing at your job. Good on you. We absolutely need that. For the people, though, that think the PMP is going to be the certification that's going to break them out of execution, going to break them out of, kind of the lower ranks and excel them and lift them into higher ranks, it doesn't happen automatically. And those people get a little bit disenchanted. What happens when you achieve your PMP is you're given the opportunity, but you have to be intentional and deliberate about leveraging that PMP toward leadership. First and foremost, you have to demonstrate leadership. I know that sounds silly and that sounds obvious, but you can't just run your projects from your desk and be an administrator. You have to be a leader. You have to set the tone and take the lead on that project team, which means you take on a lot of responsibility without a ton of authority, right? So first and foremost, you have to differentiate yourself by literally demonstrating leadership characteristics and leadership traits. The second most important thing that you need a mentor in that organization who may or may not be a direct reporting manager, but a mentor, typically a higher level stakeholder, someone who manages the money. If I had to pick from all my stakeholders, the person who controls the money is a person who is making decisions about where the organization invests its time and its resources. That person would be a fantastic mentor because you're going to see how the sausage is made. You're going to see how decisions are made, how risk is abated at a portfolio level and at a corporate level. And also, they're going to be the people who are making those choices about this is important to us and this isn't. That is very, very vital information and very vital training for you to understand in order to excel. And then probably the third biggest takeaway is being extremely deliberate in your improvements and how you capture those, right? So if you go in and you execute every day and you don't make mistakes and your projects stay on track and those are your metrics, fantastic. It makes you a fantastic executor and it makes you a vital and important piece of the overall organization. But if you want to differentiate yourself and show real leadership potential, you have to show that you have more than a $200 an hour mindset, that you have a $2,000 an hour mindset. And the way you demonstrate that is you see something that's broken or you see something that has a ton of friction and you fix it. You make those recommendations. I'm not talking about working nights and weekends to do that. I'm talking about doing that in a very public way. That, hey, how do I get some resources? How do I get some help to fix this thing that is a recurring issue over and over and over that aggregated across the entire portfolio or over the next several years could cost us millions. I want to fix that problem. Those would be the three things that I would recommend.
So you've mentioned that you really want to start showing yourself as a leader and not so much as an executioner. What is one thing that a project manager can start doing, let's just say this week, that changes the way they're perceived and the way they're evaluated? I mean, you sort of already touched on it a little bit. Like, okay, you want to start publicly fixing things so that people can start seeing you as a leader. Do you have a little bit of more concrete advice, perhaps?
Um, yeah. So, these are subtle, but they're noticeable if you're aware of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is why we wrote the briefing. The most subtle thing that you can do is I can walk into a room. I've been doing this for a long time. I can walk into a room of an integrated project team meeting, which a arguably should be a project manager who's leading that, and I can tell instantly the leadership potential in that project manager, preferably specifically a PMP, but I can immediately tell their leadership potential based on how they're running that meeting. And here's the difference. And I see this in the coaching world and the consulting world. You're going to recognize this as well in your industry. If there's an individual sitting there who is dictating, that is an executor. Okay, that is someone who is like, this is what we're doing. Let's go do this thing. When I see a project manager who's uh, asking questions, who's engaging and involving others, who is so secure in themselves and in their capacity that they're willing to ask questions and get feedback from their team, that's a leader. That's a leader. Lead with curiosity, right? Not with confrontation. So that I can tell instantly in a room just based on that energy and on that tone. If you're trying to dictate everything and you're trying to control everything and you just do it the way that I said, you don't have a lot of leadership potential right now. Control is not the way to leadership. Control is the way to micromanagement. Enjoy that. If you really want to lead, then you're curious about how can I empower this team of experts, subject matter experts in their fields. How can I bring out the best in them? How can I help them overcome their challenges and answer their questions and make sure that their concerns get addressed, because we all benefit from that. So that is 100%. Anytime I walk into a room, anytime I meet a new PMP, it's, hey, let me just watch how you interact with your team. And the strongest leadership presence you can have. And again, like I say, you can go to YouTube, watch some videos of interactions, like just pay attention in your own workspace. And you'll recognize that people who you aspire to be like and that you admire, they lead that way. They're curious. They're asking questions. They're looking for ways to help you solve your own problems, kind of thing. But those people who stand up in the room and say, everybody sit down, be quiet, listen to everything that I have to say. Here's my
Mm-hmm.
37-point checklist of everything we're going to do today. Okay, go do that. Well, that person doesn't really care about any kind of feedback or anything that I might have to offer to that conversation. That's not leadership, that's management.
I mean, I'm literally listening to you, and it is true that the people that I've usually looked up to the most are the ones that listen, the ones that ask questions, the one that lead by, uh, you know, they lead by example and not so much by fear. I wanted to ask you, do you think there's like one big myth, or what would you say is the biggest myth that PMPs believe about leadership?
Well, it's the cornerstone of the briefing, which is they think that the myth is that more execution equals leadership. They think that the path to leadership is through a volume of execution. That's the that's the pill that we've been made to swallow, which is, if you just do more, then next year we'll promote you for sure. If you do this, then we'll do that. It's some kind of performance identity where if I just do more than everyone else, that's what a leader is, right? Leaders just do more than everyone else, right? No. No. Good leaders step back. Good leaders recognize where they really add value, which is ensuring that every single solitary member of that team is engaged and fully empowered through anything that they need, any resource they need, training, resource, parts, pieces, tools, whatever they need. They have everything they need to succeed. And so this idea that leadership is about volume and about velocity, it's crap. It's absolute crap. All you do when you do that is you make yourself, here's a fun word that's supposed to be encouraging, and it's indispensable. That sounds like a great word. Wow, I want to be indispensable. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's the trap. When your organization cannot live without you in that role, you are stuck in that role. They will never see you another way. If a PMP and senior project management execution is part of your path and you treat it that way as a temporary position between good project management and excellent project management, and really starting to learn and stretch your leadership legs, then it becomes leverage for the next position. But the biggest myth is thinking that a volume or a velocity of execution is what makes you a desirable leader. It does not.
I really want us to dig a little bit deeper in next week's conversation around how to train leadership, because I'm sure there's people
Mm.
listening and they like what they hear, but they find it really hard to really train those leadership skills and those leadership traits. And I think it's something we can potentially tap a little more into. So, anyways, appreciate your time
Awesome.
as usual, Mr. Charles, and I'll catch
Yeah,
you
man.
next week.
Excellent.